In the 1990s, Professor John Mack, a leading psychiatrist at Harvard University, started investigating alleged abduction victims. In his research, he studied over 200 cases.
He was very eminent in the sense that he worked at Harvard University. He was very well respected. Harvard is one of the leading educational institutions in America.
He was in charge of the psychiatry department there, and he became interested in the abductions that were claimed to be taking place, and he started to interview people that claimed they'd been abducted.
He initially thought that it was a new kind of psychosis, so as a psychologist he wanted to get involved in research. He did speak with a guy called Bud Hopkins, who is arguably the most famous abduction expert, but he got involved and over the course of a year studied several people who claimed to have been abducted. He went in as a complete skeptic.
And after intensive study of the subject, he virtually came out, much to the dismay of Harvard University, and said, yes, these abductions are taking place, and humans are being taken into spacecraft and being medically examined and interfered with, etc.
And all the people that he dealt with did not exhibit any of the known tendencies for, they can easily imagine things, that type of thing. When he came out with that and said, well, actually, people are describing real events, this then added scientific credibility to what was something that was regarded probably as Mickey Mouse by mainstream science. It caused him enormous problems because Harvard, the pressures at Harvard, he was a bit shunned initially, and his job was on the line.
Professor Mack was killed in a tragic accident in 2004. Although his family did not believe there was grounds for suspicion, it seems quite bizarre that someone of such intelligence would die in such a way.
He'd written 2 books. He stuck to his guns. He was over in England. I think he might have even been in Oxford on a UK tour, doing lectures, and he was knocked over by a drunk driver and killed, which was a very tragic end to a very eminent scientist. But
in the mid-1990s, a video was smuggled out from the secret Naval Intelligence underground facility at S4 in Nevada. The video depicts an actual alien sitting in a bio-containment area. Many believe this footage to be genuine. The alien shown here has respiratory difficulty due to the environment. In this clip, we see medical staff arrive to aid the stressed alien. Physical evidence of alien abduction was revealed in the mid-1990s with the work of Dr. Roger Leir. Leir has removed tiny implants from patients' bodies believed to have been put there by ETs.
I've been, again, lucky enough to meet Roger Leir a couple of times when doing lectures, and he's a very good speaker. He's a podiatrist, so he's basically a doctor of the feet. That's what he's specialist. But he became fascinated in the abduction phenomena, and someone approached him and said, look, I've got this foreign object inside, I'm sure I've got something, and they said that I'm sure it's something to do with ET and abductions.
For several years he kept his identity secret. He was just assisting in carrying out these investigations, removing implants from these people, in trying to find out what they were.
I think he too was initially sceptical, but when he started to delve into the subject he found that there was a bit more to it, and I think to date he has performed with other people 13 operations where they removed foreign objects.
And they appeared to be connected to nerve tissues in the human implant.
And many of these foreign objects are very similar in the sense that they're about the size of a pea. They have similar characteristics, i.e. they have a membrane which is very hard to cut on the outside, that when you cut into the membrane there is like a liquid there are terrestrial metals within the object, but are in sort of unconventional structures. And some of those exhibit weird magnetic characteristics, but he is absolutely certain that these objects are some kind of tracking device.
But what they were controlling, we just don't know.
When an object is under the skin, it would normally be rejected, but he finds that there are structures attached to the small objects that don't reject in any way. He did tell me that he was trying to put in a medical paper through someone else who was within the mainstream, as it were, to try to just say, don't mention aliens, don't mention UFOs, but just mention foreign objects, and not being rejected, and looking at the medical aspect.
But yes, he's definitely an authentic researcher, a man of some stature in his field.
I look at some of the evidence that he's presented. I think mainstream science should at least look at this material before they dismiss it, but they just won't go near it.
The new millennia saw the dawn of a new word in ufology: disclosure. The term disclosure was coined by the founder of the disclosure movement, Dr. Stephen Greer. Disclosure is the word which describes an admission by our government that UFOs and ETs are real. In May 2001, the Disclosure Project held a historic press conference where 22 military and intelligence witnesses spoke at length about their involvement with UFO programs. The event, unfortunately, did not achieve its goal and was overshadowed 4 months later by the 9/11 attacks. How convenient. In November 2006, a flying saucer was observed by many people at O'Hare International Airport. It departed vertically upwards at impossible speed, cutting a perfect circle in the clouds, which remained for several minutes. In January 2008, another incredible UFO sighting occurred when a huge mothership travelled slowly and silently over the area of Stevensville, Texas, witnessed at multiple locations by multiple witnesses. Radar data released by the Air Force clearly shows a massive object which at one point completely disappears from the radar, then reappears again a few minutes later. I'm going to finish with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon.
Well, Edgar Mitchell is not really saying anything that he hasn't said before. He's been saying this for a long while. What sort of makes him particularly important is because he's the sixth man on the moon. It's a nice ring to that, and he's obviously been on the moon. Edgar Mitchell is important because he's an astronaut, he's a scientist, he's well respected, and he has said publicly that he knows of people who have told him that there is a government conspiracy to deny the public the full information about UFO reality, that some UFOs are extraterrestrial in origin.
I happen to be privileged enough to be in on the fact that we've been visited on this planet and the UFO phenomena is real. It's been well covered up by all our governments for the last 60 years or so, but slowly it's leaked out and some of us have been privileged to have been briefed on some of it. I've been in military and intelligence circles who know that beneath the surface of what has been public knowledge, yes, we have been visited.
You've got to question why somebody of his ilk and standing would make those comments if he were purporting a lie. You cannot think for one reason, logical reason, why a man of his eminence would want to go on camera, as he has often done, and say publicly UFOs are real. And I know they're real. And yet mainstream science, other than the odd article and the odd quote in the news, that's it, it's in the news one day and it's forgotten the next. Well, really, we should be listening to somebody of his credibility and saying, well, okay, why would he say that? Let's really examine what he's saying. And it does, to me, is one of those classic cases where mainstream media are turning their back on looking at the real evidence.